people today. They could spend half their lives over 50. That's a lot of living. So it helps to have a wise friend and fierce defender in your corner. A friend like AARP. So your health lives longer.
This is just slow-mo karate?
Just slow-mo karate.
Your money lives longer.
I just bought that.
I just sold that.
And your happiness lives longer. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Join today.
Welcome to AARP Illinois' virtual event. It's so wonderful to have you with us. AARP is on a mission to connect with individuals across various communities, especially those aged 50 and above. We're here to listen, understand, and address the unique needs of you and your community as we age. Our goal is to enrich your experience by expanding our local activities, providing opportunities for you to discover and engage with all that life has to offer right here in your own community and virtually. As we journey through today's event, we invite you to consider joining our dedicated team of AARP volunteers. It's a chance to make a meaningful impact and help us better serve those 50 plus across the nation. Connect with us and be a part of this vibrant movement toward positive change. Welcome. And let's make this event both fun and transformative.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to AARP Illinois special virtual event. I'm Courtney Hedderman, Senior Associate State Director for Advocacy and Outreach here at AARP Illinois. I am your Fraud-Fighting Fraudlette. I'm thrilled to be bringing the latest on frauds and scams and ultimately arming you with the information you need for prevention and reporting if you're ever a victim. I'm excited to be here today talking all about AI, artificial intelligence. I'm honored to welcome my very special guest, Andres Ramirez from the AI Safety Awareness Project. Now, we are going to talk all about this, so I can't wait. This is going to be a really great conversation, so I'm really looking forward to this. For those that need more information around AI, let me just give this one little intro. So artificial intelligence, or AI for short, is really transforming the world at an unprecedented pace. From revolutionizing healthcare and education to reshaping industries and daily life, ultimately, AI offers immense potential for good. Now, yet, with its rising interest and usage comes serious concerns and challenges in misinformation, job displacement, privacy risks, kind of just to name a few. So we're going to get into all that. As AI becomes more embedded in our lives, understanding both its benefits and dangers is essential. Equally important is learning how individuals can protect themselves while using AI responsibly. That's what we're going to be talking about all day today. So before we get started with our discussion, I'd like to remind our Facebook and YouTube viewers that you can ask questions or share your comments in the social media feed. So please do that. We'll do our best to address as many of your questions as possible during our conversation. So please put them into those spaces. Again, I am so honored to welcome Andres Ramirez. Again, he's from the AI Safety Awareness Project. He is an expert in this. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for being here and welcome.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for all the work that you do, Courtney. It's just been amazing to learn about your fraud prevention work and all of that. So just happy to kind of supplement your work.
Oh, no, thank you so very much. Okay, so let's probably get started with the most basic question, if you will. And I kind of gave a little bit, but I think it needs certainly a lot more, especially from you as the expert. So
for sure.
What exactly is artificial intelligence? Can you get into that?
Yeah, I sure can. I'm trying to be cognizant of time, right? We only have about 30 minutes. So it's a very, very big question. And this is a very big conversation, right? So just as a caveat, a lot of the things that I'm going to be saying and talking today, I think, are going to be very high level and kind of conceptual, right? So I don't think I'll be able to get too comprehensive on this call. So that being said, I don't want that to be a cop out, right? That being said, it is a bit of a trickier answer to that very basic question because frankly, there's just a lot of different types of AI, right? But in very, very basic terms, I think what you might be able to say would be it's just technology that helps computers mimic the human brain, right? So if we break that down a little bit and we think through like what does our brain actually do? Well, it helps us think. Yep, that's something that AI is helping machines do, right? It helps us recognize faces, understand what people are saying, right? Understand speech, and ultimately make decisions. That is what AI is, but just in a computer, in a machine, right? I would like to introduce something to the audience today. And this is just a very basic framework of categorizing different types of AI. So the framework is there's narrow AI, AGI, that it stands for Artificial General Intelligence, and ASI, that's Artificial Super Intelligence. So let's very briefly just define what those three mean. So a narrow AI is basically an AI that is built to accomplish an extremely specific goal. So back in, I don't know, about 10 or 15 years ago, AI started beating humans, like some of the best people at chess, right? Like chess grandmasters. That is a narrow AI. When an AI is told, just go be the best at chess, very, very specific, right? Very specific. That's narrow AI. Then we have artificial general intelligence, AGI. And that tends to denote AI that is as good as the average human being at cognitive level abilities, right? So critical thinking, learning, and applying that knowledge, that's AGI. And then, of course, artificial superintelligence is surpassing human capacity across those pillars. So just so the audience is aware, in general terms, where we're at with AI currently in terms of development is somewhere between narrow AI and artificial general intelligence, which is AGI.
That makes sense. Wow, that is interesting. I did not know that there were, I guess, those different levels, but it makes sense. It makes sense. Okay, we know what it kind of is. So how does artificial intelligence work then?
Yeah. This is a question that I get very often as well. Whether I'm at a cafe or at a bar or even with my family, everyone just asks like, okay, so how does this actually work, right? I think if I'm going to try to call out like the main takeaways here. Like if you just took away, 5 different things from our 30-minute conversation, I want you to take away, this is the first one. AI is built, it's not built. Sorry, AI is not built, it's grown, right? So that's how it is very different from software. So you have to kind of grow it to start developing the outputs that you want. So now we start talking about inputs and outputs. And a metaphor that I like to use in my workshops, I do a lot of workshops in Chicago for senior citizens. And a metaphor that I like to use is think of like your favorite band or your favorite musician, right? And one that comes up often is actually the Rolling Stones. So the Rolling Stones, their input were thousands of hours of practice, right? Like just in their garage, in their basement, whatever, just practicing day in, day out, right? At first, their output wasn't great because of course it wasn't. They were just starting out. But then they started going to shows, right? And then they started selling out shows. And then they went platinum. And then they started selling out international worldwide tours, right? So as their inputs grew and theoretically got better, their output got better as well. So what we're talking about in regards to AI being grown, not built, it just depends on, not exclusively, but a big part of it is the inputs. So like the data that AI is trained on, and then how good it is at learning how to provide a pattern as an output, right? So think about it this way. The AI is practicing by analyzing massive amounts of information like text, images, and speech. And over time, with better hardware, with better algorithms, which are basically instructions for the AI, they start providing better and better outputs.
Oh, that makes sense. Well, I love the metaphor of the Rolling Stones. That's a great way of really understanding and getting it to a little bit I think the layman's term, right? Because
Yeah.
AI it seems so complicated and technical, and that just scares people off. And so, yeah, that totally makes sense. So the thing is I'm starting to use AI more, right, in different ways, not only through work, but my personal life as well. And so I think that we are in general starting to use it more daily, right? So what are the common examples of AI in that everyday life and everyday usage?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Again, just leaning on my workshop experience, I asked actually people in the beginning of my presentation, raise your hand if you've ever interacted with AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 9 times out of 10, after that question, no one raises their hand.
Sure.
Because I think a lot of folks are kind of expecting like, oh, well, I don't use a large language model, like a ChatGPT or a Gemini or or like a Grok, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't use any of that, or that's what my kids use or whatever. So I think it's interesting to note that, number one, you're probably using AI even if you are unaware of it, and you're absolutely being affected by AI even if you're unaware of it. So if you use Facebook, if you use Netflix, you're using AI. And it's a very basic level of AI. It's probably one of like the first quote unquote algorithms that came out to public use, which is just a curation AI. How much time do you spend on a specific piece of content, or what do you like when you're going through your social feed? We'll give you more of that. That's an AI. But also, if you use a Siri or an Alexa, or you say, hey, Google, Google me this, or play XYZ song from the Rolling Stones, that is also AI, because it's using AI to understand your speech. Now let's move on to how you might be affected without knowing it, right? And the example that I give in my workshops is, raise your hand if you've gone to the doctor in the last year. 90% of the time, everyone's hands go up, right? Mm-hmm. People are unaware, but doctors and health institutions are using AI to help them diagnose health concerns and also provide proper medication. So again, you don't have to be aware of it to be affected by it. You don't have to be aware of it to be using it.
That's amazing. I think that people probably are very unaware, again, on that indirect effect, right? That they might not use like a ChatGPT or something like that, but they are absolutely being affected by it for sure. So I would think that there are lots of benefits, right, that our audience might not even be aware of, that they can kind of reap from AI. So what are some of those benefits that people should really think about? Like, how can I make my life better, easier, more efficient, or something like that? How can they do that? What are those benefits?
Yeah. So I think, again, these can be split up into benefits that are potentially like a little bit more localized, and then broader benefits. So let's talk about localized benefits for a second. AI can be used to make your life just easier, right? I have a grandma. She's about 92 years old, and she definitely struggles to get around the house. English isn't her first language, but it would be exceptional if she could talk in Spanish. I'm pretty sure you can actually do that now. And say, Google, turn off the lights. That would save her so much time, and would just be so convenient for her, so that she doesn't have to get up from her bed, get up from her chair, and struggle around the house to turn off the lights. And it's a really, really small thing, but I think with the audience that's listening to this today, or if you know someone who's a little bit on the older side, how much that might mean to them, right? Mm-hmm. So very, very easy things like that, or potentially, using large language models to understand complex ideas. I use AI. I use ChatGPT to help me understand a little bit more. There's a big Senate bill. I don't know if people have heard of it, the big beautiful bill. That's everywhere today, right? Yep. I'm not reading 1,100 pages of it, but I am going to ChatGPT just to understand a little bit better, and it becomes a source of information. And I don't think it should be your only one, but again, it can be really good at summarizing things and laying things out very plainly for you. And then on the broader side, what are like the bigger benefits that we can expect as a society? Well, I'm here in Philadelphia, and I went to American Library Association conference, and I heard a speaker talk about AI, and his family suffers from fourth generation Alzheimer's. So his dad has it, his grandma had it, et cetera, et cetera. And so he's been very scared for himself, right? And he shared that given where AI might be going, he doesn't lose sleep over that anymore because he feels confident that AI might be able to help us resolve huge, massive medical concerns. So obviously there's a lot of uncertainty there. And I'm not saying that, Alzheimer's will be cured in the next year,
Yeah,
right?
no, I understand.
But to hear people talk like that, who have been working in AI for 20 plus years, and be saying that to a large audience, I think is pretty powerful.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's really, I do think that there are so many benefits and advantages that we probably haven't even thought about yet, right? I see that, I feel that already, which is really incredible. I do think, as much as I only want to talk about positive things, I do think we need to kind of talk some challenges a little bit. So maybe let's talk about maybe how does AI kind of contribute to this?
Oh, sorry, I think I'm losing you a little bit. Can you hear me, Courtney? We may have lost Courtney. Oh no. Okay. I'm not sure if this is still streaming, but I'll continue talking. I think we lost Courtney, but based off of I think what she was trying to ask was, these are the good sides. What might be the bad sides, right? What might be the challenges of AI, and how might it affect fraud, which I know is Fraudlet, streaming. Thank you. Yeah, Fraudlet streaming. So let's talk a little bit about the risks of AI as they pertain to fraud. And ultimately, it's just a matter of scale, right? Maybe that's not the end all be all, but it's a matter of scale. So fake images and videos have been used in the internet to kind of for fraud ever since like the beginning of the internet, right? But that used to take like real human effort with real human hours. Now it's literally just a matter of typing in a few sentences and clicking a button to mass produce fake media. So it's just going to get more and more prevalent if it's not already. If you're in the audience right now and like just think through like how many scam calls have you gotten in the last week or in the last day? Some of those might be through AI. But it's not just misinformation that is a problem. And it's not just, the fraud piece, it's bias as well. So we identified earlier that, hey, Courtney, you're back.
I am so sorry.
You're good.
Oh, goodness. Things are happening around my house right now, and literally everything just went down internet-wise. See, this is what happens with technology.
Exactly. You can't put all your eggs in one basket.
I guess not. Apologies. I'm back though. Thank you for holding the fort down. Well,
I got you. So I was piecing it together because you were breaking up, but yeah. I think what you were asking is, Okay, that's the good side. Like, can you talk a little bit about like the challenges? Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly correct. That was exactly what I was going to ask.
Okay, I'm in your head. I'm in your head. Well, I was just sharing with the audience. I know we got a question. I'll answer it in a moment here. But I was just sharing with the audience that it's a matter of scale, right? That fraud can just be even more prevalent now. But also, we identified that AI models are trained on data. What if that data is wrong or skewed a certain way? I was reading the other day an article from Time, and they found that cardiovascular disease is often misdiagnosed in women. And as such, an algorithm built to predict heart attacks 5 years before they happen was built on data that was heavily skewed towards the male body. So this means that, one, of course, there's still a gap in women's cardiovascular treatment, but also two, algorithms like this can actually perpetuate that gap because it can give healthcare providers a false sense of security, right? If you're kind of like what we just did, we leaned on technology and then it just broke on us, right?
Right.
Okay, now let's scale that to very serious concerns and very serious issues, right?
Right.
I did get a question.
Yeah. So we do have a question from Rick on Facebook. Yeah. And so thank you, Rick, for asking this. So is it true that it is safer to use Apple Intelligence, so that's Apple's AI, right, than others, as they have additional privacy controls for my information going all over cyberspace? So again, it's like, should you use individual provider type of AI versus like kind of the masses of what they're using? What do you think?
I think that's a really good question. And unfortunately, I think the answer is both a yes and a no. It's a yes because each organization, Apple, Google, Meta, formerly known as Facebook, has privacy guidelines, right? That being said, these guidelines are not incredibly strong. And unfortunately, whatever you can do to kind of mitigate any data being shared with anyone else that you might not want is very, very difficult to keep track of. Why? Because simply put, data brokers are selling data all the time. So if you put your information out there, you should be leaning on the idea that your data is probably going to be out there for a lot of other people that you might not be aware of. So be careful with what you put out there. This is something that is coming up a lot with students in schools. Privacy is a massive concern for schools right now because now students are sharing more than ever about themselves because an AI sounds like a human.
Yeah.
Right. So I know that's a little bit of a gray answer. Understand the terms of services, understand what that organization is doing, but also going back to the point we just made, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Be very careful about what you put out there.
Yep. No, love it. That's a great answer because I think there is, well, there's good and there's bad, right? And so it's more trying to figure out what's best for certain situations and whatnot. And I think this kind of maybe even lends a little bit to my next question, which is really about kind of AI and fraud specifically. So can you share a little bit more on how AI might increase the risk of fraud specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So scale's one for sure. But that being said, there's also the quality that goes up as well at scale. So there's a part of my workshop that I do where I pull up my LinkedIn, and just based off of my LinkedIn, which is public information, right? Anyone can go on my LinkedIn. I can easily create within 10 seconds a phishing email that is targeted towards me, just based off of that information. I can also use that image to create deepfake images literally in 10, 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Me holding a gun, of me in jail, of me in court. I can tell you right now, I've never held a gun. I've never gone to court. I think I actually did go to court. I was jury duty. I went for jury duty.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, it
doesn't count, right? But in a different way.
I'm a good citizen. I'm a good citizen is basically the picture. And I didn't do the third one, whatever that. I haven't gone to jail, right? So, but deepfakes can be created, and I can be attacked, and as such, anyone can be attacked with these scams. One thing that we're seeing specifically for AI is actually cloning of the voice. So if your voice is out there in a video, Courtney, our voices are out there right now on this live stream, right? Or if you get a phone call and you talk, all they need is 5-10 seconds of your voice. and then they can use AI to use your voice to say whatever they want. Really, really, really worrisome technology there. I mean, you're definitely the fraud expert between the two of us, Courtney. So I'll lean on you for that. But I do think that, and what we say in our workshops is, literally do not pick up the phone if someone is calling and you don't recognize that number. Like the risk that you open yourself up to is massive. And then also have some sort of safe word with your family members that only you guys know, so that you reduce the risk of that harm.
Yeah, that's so scary. We do hear a lot I do hear a lot from folks about the cloning of the voice specifically and whatnot, and that it is so scary. So yeah, great tips already, right? That you just shared about not picking up the phone and so, certainly if you don't know the phone number and stuff like that. So those are always great tips for sure. But so kind of going back a little to your earlier point though, like right now, we're kind of between that narrow, you talked about like the narrow AI and AGI.
Sure.
So what might things look like if AI progresses? Like what's going to happen?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Okay, so this is where I also will take it back to what I said earlier. There's a lot of uncertainty here. And even the people that are researching and developing AI today are uncertain, right? So it's very, very scary to think through like where AI might go. But let's talk a little bit about fraud first, and where that might go. And again, this is based off of folks, both independent researchers, so very little incentive to be lying, but also researchers within labs who, cynically might be building up their product, but also in other ways, they might just be really concerned about what they're doing, right? So for fraud, maybe it's not just that they mimic your daughter or your grandchildren's voice, but they actually copy their speech pattern, right? Yes. I have a speech pattern, you have a speech pattern, we all have a unique speech pattern. Or what if you started, instead of getting phone calls, you started getting video calls about folks, from folks that you think like your doctor or your financial consultant, right? Things like that. So this is actually a really good segue into more general concerns. What happens in a society where you just feel unsafe trusting anything that's digital? So as a reminder, AGI, artificial general intelligence, is AI that is as good in general terms as your regular human being. So what happens when AI is as good as your average teacher, right, in schools, or your average doctor at your family practitioner or your hospital, or as good as a politician? And politicians start using AI, start leaning on AI to govern or make policy decisions. It's a really, really big concern that we're grappling with in the AI safety space. And one question that I want to leave folks with is, what jobs that we thought were really only for people, like caregiving, creative stuff like writing, or even something like spiritual guidance, right? Think of your churches, think of your religious groups. Are those threatened by AI? Why yes or why no? These are things that we need to start considering, because AI does threaten to change our social fabric, both maybe for the better, but also maybe for the worse.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. So we have a couple of questions that have come through. So one question we have is, are free versions of AI programs good enough for scammers to use for their crimes? So if they used a paid for full version, wouldn't there be a way to trace the fake video or photo or voice back to them? Yeah,
that's a good question. So a lot of the models that are publicly available, and like these are the biggest ones,
right?
ChatGPT-4,
like a Copilot or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. They have what we call safeguards. So to try to make sure that people don't use them for malignant use. That being said, one, not all safeguards are the same. So each model has its own different safeguard policy. Two, these safeguards can be jailbroken. There's plenty of research in what breaking safeguards actually looks like. So yes, this can be done with regular models if you put in the work. There are other models out there as well that can be used for this kind of stuff. As far as tracing it, that becomes a little bit difficult because it's very easy to mask where this all stems from, right? There are bot farms in pretty much all over the world. But if it's an individual or anyone, let's just say me, right? If it's me, I can always mask my what's called an IP address. So no one can really track where I'm doing this from. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky to track this down.
Gotcha. So we have another Facebook question. What does the future to clean our AI from data? I think that's to mean how do we kind of, I mean, maybe if we have had identity stolen or something that, how does AI get rid of things? I think it's kind of, I don't know, that's how I kind of read that, but it's worded like, what does the future to clean our AI from data?
Yeah. Okay. I think I understand the question. If it is kind of what you're saying, Courtney, which is, how I want to file a complaint, or, I want to make sure that my data is not out there.
Right. That's how I read that.
Yeah. Okay. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is worth reaching out to. There are government organizations. I mean, with the spending bill and all of that, I'm not entirely sure how much they'll be able to help, but those government agencies are there for you to reach out to. Again, that's the CFPB. That said, if those government agencies are less than effective or are not effective at all, a reminder that government works for us, right? So that's another takeaway that I want the audience to walk away with. If this is something that is a big issue for you, then we have to start working together to build an AI future that works for us, works for our children, and works for our grandchildren, right? As such, if I want my data cleaned, my data not be taken into account in AI, you should not be coerced to do so, as we are being right now. So that's, I mean, I know we're running short on time, and maybe that's another takeaway that you guys should walk away with, is how can we start thinking of a better AI future for myself and for my family? Because everyone else is thinking about the AI future. And it's time that we as a society, as our local communities, start also working towards a desirable future. And the very first step is, one, being educated. So if you join today, I hope you're feeling a little bit more educated on the topic, but also two, just talking to your family, your community, your friends. What do we want AI to do for us in the next 2-3 years? And what do we not want it to do for us?
Oh, I love this. That's such a perfect note to close us out in a lot of ways. I can't thank you enough. Is there, I guess, last call? This call could go on for so much longer, and we must have you back. So, but is there anything that additional that maybe I know for sure we missed some stuff, but that people should know and be aware of? Is there anything else that you kind of want to make sure people also know?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me. If you want to do a 24-hour live stream, we absolutely can. I
maybe not me if I can't have my internet working. No, just kidding.
Right. I guess the thing that I want to leave people with is the AI and where it's headed is not really set in stone. We can change and kind of steer where AI goes, because it will affect all of us. And it has affected a lot of the audience already based off of these questions, right? So it is absolutely in our hands. Think about it this way. If we could go back to the Industrial Revolution, or if we could go back to even when social media first popped up, right? Back in 2008, 2009, would we do anything differently? We would probably still release it, but would we be more intentional? Would we be more careful with addiction or misinformation? Most likely, yes. We have that opportunity now with AI to make sure that things go right and things don't go wrong.
Great way to close us out. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Andres Ramirez from the AI Safety Awareness Project. You have been invaluable. What a wonderful conversation we've had. Thank you so very much. And thank you for being very flexible when I had moments of lack of internet. So appreciate you for taking the helm. So appreciate you. Thank you so much. This is obviously been a wonderful call. To all of our audience, thank you for those wonderful questions. Thank you for joining us. Remember, the power to create positive change lies within each of us. So please join us next month for another engaging conversation regarding fraud. We're going to be talking all about securing your home. So things that you might not even be aware that your home is just open for fraudsters. So we're going to talk all about that. But thank you again to Andres Ramirez from the AI Awareness Safety Project. We look forward to continuing our mission of supporting older adults, caregivers, older adults, the entire aging community in Illinois, and of course, across the country. For more information regarding fraud, you can call 1-877-908-3360. Again, that's 877-908-3360, or by visiting our website, aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. That's aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. If you'd like more information on AARP Illinois' upcoming virtual events, please visit aarp.org/Illinois. We hope you have a wonderful day. This concludes our virtual event. Stay safe, everyone.